Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of JKL Media Reviews. And with this episode, we are embarking on our biggest project in a while, and that is that we're going to do a episode by episode review of the 2015 SF series, The Expanse. And joining me on this journey are Jesse
Hello.
and oh, sorry,
No, I was wondering, are we expanding the expanse?
Or
No, the
pushing the boundaries.
the Epstein drive. Oh boy, that doesn't work well, does it?
no, it did not
Uh,
age well.
yes.
Good one. I forgot
So
about that.
I just asked Copilot, and it's JKL navigates the expanse. I like
Okay.
that.
All right,
Oh,
there you
that's
go.
cool.
So yeah.
And the aforementioned Kay. Hello, Karen.
Hello, everyone.
Alrighty, so this is our third SF series that we're covering, and I guess maybe you could say fourth if you include Severance, but we've done in various other podcast incarnations.
Fourth.
Fourth. Okay, we've
Yeah, we've
done
done
Um,
devs,
no,
12,
no,
12 Monkeys.
12
12
oh yes,
monkeys.
Monkeys, Farscape,
Cape,
The Expanse, and
Vance.
Babylon 5. Those are the ones that I
Right.
consider.
Yeah,
Yeah.
multi-season. We're talking multi-season series.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry.
got it.
All right. So The Expanse is based on a book written by James S.A. Corey, which is a pseudonym for a writing duo, and I always can never remember their names. Damn it. When I find it, I will.
Daniel, Abraham,
Yeah.
and Ty Frank.
Yes, thank you.
You're
So
welcome.
this is a pretty ambitious series. It's set in the 23rd century, and the premise is that the human race has moved out into space, expanded, if you will, and they've colonized Mars, and there's a viable colony there. And then they've also moved out into the belt, which is the asteroid belt. And because of that setting, there's a lot of characters in the show. And I think if there's one hurdle to get over with the show, it's the amount of characters and plot lines that are going on. So it takes the show a couple of episodes for it to gain its footing. And if you're not into SF, then it might be a bit of a tough slog for you. But I do believe that the payoff is worth it once you get into further seasons, mostly due to the writing and the cast. I think that the show has a great cast. In this first episode, it's really hard to tell who are the main characters, again, because it's doing a lot of lifting, heavy lifting in this episode. The big name star here is probably Thomas Jane, if anybody's going to recognize anybody out of this cast. So with that in mind, this series is interesting in that it is more political than any other series. That Babylon 5 was pretty political at times too, but this one, the parallels to modern present day Earth and the future are quite strong. And this is the premise of this show is it's an area of colonialism again, because we're charting out new territories and moving out and claiming new lands. And you're going to see a lot of political tensions here between the Belters and Earth, the Belters and Mars, Earth and Mars. And it's a sort of like a three-pronged superhero or a superpower storyline. And with the Belters probably being the underdogs quite easily. So with that stage setting and keeping in mind all the things that the show has to do before we really get going with the narrative thrust, Karen, what were your thoughts of this first episode?
I really enjoyed it. I had seen it again. It's been 10 years, almost 10 years
Wow.
exactly, December of 2015. I did watch it and I was telling the guys that Sci-Fi Channel made me very gun shy of watching anything that originated there because they had canceled so many things. Farscape being the most notable one, they really did it dirty. So I was gun shy and I decided investing time in this, I might not be happy. And of course, it gets shuttled off to Amazon and it gets so many seasons and I really regretted it. So I'm happy we're talking about it. But I enjoyed this first episode. I really like Thomas Jane ever since he played Frank Castle slash Punisher. And there's a lot of really great actors in this. I think that we'll be able to handle the multi-threaded part of this because it seems so easy in this
Mm,
first episode. But yeah, I thought it was intriguing, and the fact that we're getting a detective show as well as science fiction, I
mm.
thought was really cool.
Yep. And we'll come back to that point in a second. Jesse, your thoughts?
Yeah, I remember being confused when I watched this the first time 3 or 4 years ago. I had tried to get into this series and had watched, I think I made it through the second season, but I can't remember. It was something I never loved, and it wasn't, for example, The Diplomat season 3 just dropped, and like I binged it in a day and a half. Right? I just could not, it's like potato chips, couldn't eat just one. So I'm really looking forward to doing this because one, because I've seen a little bit of them myself already, I'm not as confused.
Okay.
I do think this is the type of series that you need to focus. You can't play solitaire on your phone while you're watching it or
Absolutely.
scroll. This is something. And you mentioned about Thomas Jane. There's also several other really well-known character actors on this, and that people have gone on since. Like Dimitri, the Joe's partner, went on to play Thomas Magnum in the Magnum reboot.
Mm.
And then Shed Garvey was in the Friends spinoff Joey, playing Joey's nephew. Yeah, and then the other people, like one guy played Death in Supernatural. The Navigator was also on Supernatural. The Kristen Hager, she plays Aide that we lose right away. I really think there's some real, and then of course Jonathan Banks from
Mhm.
Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
Hmm.
Entity.
Yeah, we don't get much of him, but the ones we do, I always love seeing him on screen.
Yeah, me
Hmm.
too.
Yeah, I think that you guys have captured the highlights of it. I especially like Karen's point about the Thomas Jane character with the detective story because I think that's the angle that they were trying to hook people with because people can relate to that regardless of the setting. A detective story, a missing person story is always an easy one to follow. But space is a big place, so there's room for lots of stories. One of the ones that stands out to me now even more so is she plays the UN Security Council member, Shorey Agadushlo. Sorry if I'm butchering your name, but she's got such a distinctive smoky voice that
Mm.
anytime she's on the screen, I really like her. And she was great in Star Trek Beyond when she was like the commander of that space station. I really like her, and so I didn't realize that she was right in the series from the beginning. I thought she came on later.
He also, not to interrupt, but I think she played a villain in 24.
She did.
Yeah, yeah, really, like I said, really,
A
uh,
terrorist.
yeah, great care. She was in The Penguin and
Mm-hmm.
played a great part. So yeah,
Mm.
she's a heavy hitter.
Yeah, and she's got a very distinctive voice. Once you hear it,
Yes,
you know
I
that it's
love that
her.
voice.
Yeah,
She's done quite a bit of voice acting, especially for video games. She was in
I bet.
Destiny and a bunch of other
Yeah,
stuff. And I always love hearing her. I'm like, oh yeah, I know what she looks like. I really dig her.
yeah.
Mhm.
So this episode sets the template for the series in several ways. I think it shows the high mark special effects, visual effects, the high degree of scientific accuracy. There's no There's no artificial gravity on all the time unless they generate it by the standard methods that we would think of, like with the spinning the ship and things like that. There's no noise in space. They do the engine noises, but and the gun noises, so they bend to that. But all the technology is based on projections of our current technology into the how we would handle space travel in the solar system. So that's one of the hallmarks of the series. The other hallmark of the series is that it has a huge cast and people will come and go in and out of the storyline, and some people may be put off by that. There is a handful of characters that are there throughout the story, but because it's such a multi-threaded story, at times they don't stand out as much as you would in a traditional show because there's so many other strong characters that come on. I can't wait because we've mentioned him before because Jesse's wife can't stand him is David Armitage is comes on later on and he is fantastic and I just can't wait until he becomes part of the show. So that is the several of the characteristics of the show are being established here. It's hard to know that obviously off this first episode, but that's I think that's pretty non-spoilery for me to point that out for everybody, especially for Jesse and Karen. And since they have watched part of the show, they're probably familiar with that as well.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
I have no idea. I didn't research this, but it hit me just now. Would you hear like engine noises and guns firing from inside the ship where it's happening?
I don't think you'd hear the noise. You might feel the vibration and whatever vibrate noise that vibration would make, but generally, no.
Okay,
So
just wondering.
you would hear if the engine is in that ship, hear it because of the atmosphere.
In the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what I'll have to do research on that, what you would hear and what you wouldn't. Because in movies like Apollo 13, you hear them when they
Yeah.
use the rockets and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that they probably heard those things, not the guns, but the engines at the very least. And again, this is nothing, but just when you mentioned it, I wondered if that
Yeah.
was the case.
They would hear whatever the engine noise makes inside the ship, but they
Yeah.
wouldn't
Right,
hear what we hear like the when
right.
that's done for dramatic purposes. Same
It's
like with the
definitely a conceit.
like the maneuvering thrusters. Otherwise, the scene is just it's just a little too dead. The only movie
Yeah,
that I think I can think of that was totally accurate was 2001.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
that's why the breathing inside the spacesuits made such an impression because that's really like the only thing that they would hear.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. We got a couple of threads here. I think we'll start with the Thomas Jane one because it's probably the most relatable out of the three. And Thomas Jane's got the pretty funky hairdo, haircut, half shaved, half long. He's not a pure belter, and the other actor that went on to play Magnum, he is definitely a pure earther. They're showing the tensions there. We get to see that Thomas Jane's playing a pretty standard, beaten down, cynical detective, but we also discover throughout the course of the episode that he does have a bit of humanity still left, and we could get into that. Jesse, why don't you talk about that storyline and how that played out for you?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the kind of fedora.
Yep.
I think that's nice. It's a shortcut because historically, Bogey and other the film noir set in the 40s, you would have a hat on. So I think it's a good look. It I love the premise of this idea that we have a Cold War set in space, right? Where the Earth, Mars, the belt are the three big players. And the idea that the people in the belt are almost like they are the lower class, they are the servants to both Mars and Earth and being taken advantage of. So we're set in a very complex world right away. I'm still confused. And even after have seen this, I don't remember enough to know yet, is this, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Is he a bad guy that has certain good traits? I don't know. I can't remember, and I do not know based on this how to put Joe Miller in a plane, right? It looks like he was taking a bribe, but then he got pissed and threw the guy in there to talk about air. It just, it's a complicated character that, because it would be easy to put him in there, he breaks the law for the right reasons. He's for the little person. So I don't know, but it's a very complicated role, and I like that weary detective. And then with the more naive, energetic Dimitri working next to him is a nice combo. So yeah, I think he sets up as an interesting lead, and I love the world that they've built.
Yeah. I think one of the, again, it's the setting of the show, especially for the scenes with Thomas Jane, it's nebulous because they say the name Ceres, but they don't really ever say in this episode that where it is exactly. And actually, Ceres is one of the largest asteroids between Mars and Jupiter. And it's about a quarter the size of the moon, and it's mostly water and ice. So it's got a lot of natural resources that in the future Earth is running short of. So that's why it's important. But the world that he lives in is very much, you could say, like a slave encampment dynamic. This is one of those political things that will play out more. And he is an outsider as well because he's not really of either world. He's not an earther and he's not a true belter. He's had some modifications done. They show that those ridges on his spine. So he's a bit of an outsider as well, which is part of the reason why he does things his own way, I guess you could say. But Karen, his storyline does end up tying up to the other storyline in a certain particular way. I want you to talk about that and plus anything else that you want to mention.
Sure. I love that noir feeling they give us. And it's his hat definitely puts us in that realm, but also the darkness of Ceres and the way he speaks is very noir, I think.
Mm.
And the fact that he's a morally gray character, that's the box I'd put him in, but I wouldn't really say it's a box. I think that he's going to be very multi-layered, and we might not, I'm guessing we might not like him all the time, which I like in a character. I don't think he's ever going to be the villain.
Mhm.
But I like that he saw all the people getting sick from the filters after he took a bribe from that dude, and then he decided he was going to punish him. I think it's a little hypocritical, obviously. It's like he said to himself, "I'm doing the wrong thing, and I got to let this guy know what it's like to not
Mhm.
breathe." And I really enjoyed that scene very much. I like that we've already been given his assignment. It's set up the whole thing in the beginning. Oh, what's her name? Hold
Julie
on.
Mao.
Julie
Right.
Mao. Thank
Yeah.
you. They set that up in the very opening scene. And then we're given that information that she's gone missing and he is one of the people tasked to find her. And he's supposed to keep it under his hat. He's not supposed to let anyone know that's what he's doing. His partner, he doesn't trust at all. So I love all the dynamics there. What is he about? Is he, and you said he's for the common man, but he's also not. He's for himself. And I'm hoping that we're going to get a little deepening of his character. Like I said, I don't remember much about this. And don't let me know because I
Yeah.
don't want to know how it goes. But I loved that setting on Ceres, which is now classified as a dwarf planet. And they're actually looking into habitability, like literally in real life. They're looking at that. It contains the most water of any asteroid that we've ever looked at. I think it's cool that even 10 years ago, they decided to use this as the setting. We knew that there was a lot of water there, which is essentially what they're doing. They're farming water because we've damaged our planet to the point where we need water brought in. And of
Mhm.
course, Mars needs water just organically. Such a great way to set that up because it's realistic. And like you said, we do identify with that storyline because it's a detective, almost real life storyline looking for a missing woman. And I also liked his hair, Jesse. I think that he's more than what he looks like or how he acts. It's his character. And I don't mean his character on the show, his mindset and all that. I didn't like that he took that bribe. I was like, don't tell me he's a bad guy. I forgot about that. Because like I said, I really like Thomas Jane. But I do think that he's one of our leads. I know that. Apparently we have three in the first season, right? We have Joe Miller, who's played by
Yep.
Thomas Jane. We have Jim Holden, who's Stephen Strait, and he is the captain quote unquote captain of that escape module, and Christian Avasarala,
Hmm.
who is played by Shohreh. And I think it's going to be cool to follow all the threads because we're going to get to see that storyline. They've set it up that it's the search for this missing woman. We're going to see that storyline from three different angles. And I love how they dovetailed it near the end, that they're all going to be focused on this one thing.
Right. Yes, the tie is in the first episode to the two storylines, the Stephen Strait storyline and the Thomas Jane storyline is Julie Mao. She's gone missing, and she's apparently the daughter of some very rich and powerful people. We find her on this ship, the derelict ship, the Scopuli. For some reason, she was thrown into this room, which she eventually breaks out of, and she gets to the engine room and she sees something very unexpected, and that is as far as we got. So there's that big mystery about what is it that she encountered. Then we get to, and her ship, the Scopuli, in Latin means lookout place or headland or promontory. So that's an interesting name that they chose for that ship. The other ship, the Canterbury, is the one that Stephen Strait's character is on, and he is. I have trouble with all these character names, so forgive. Yeah, James Holden. He's he's from Earth, and it seems like he's cruising. He doesn't have a purpose in life, or he's running away from something. I think that these are all things that you can infer from this episode, Jesse. And there's that distress call that they at first ignore, and then he can't get over it, so he ends up logging it, and which causes them to go to investigate it. So I wonder what you thought about his character. Uh, the other notable thing was, of course, it's always interesting to see a zero G sex scene, and I thought that was pretty well choreographed.
I, I thought it was too. I like the idea that and you saw this coming, the I don't want any responsibility. Oh, okay, let's raise our hand. That means he's going to get stuck with responsibility, right?
Yep.
And it, it is just he's very charismatic. He's very likable, even though at times he could do some unlikable things. I do thought it was interesting that the captain making that call of this is pirate bait. I and we'll also lose out on our bonus. Our there's this whole domino thing, and so you have the debate on is his instinct telling you that this is it's a trap, or is it
Mhm.
his mind going, I really need this to be a trap for all these other reasons that are financial. And you do see that the ship is barely hanging on. Yeah, I thought it was I I remember going to see the original Alien at the movie
Mhm.
theater.
Wow, you're really dating
And
yourself.
yes,
Mhm.
but what struck me is it's the first movie I can remember where space didn't look like Star Trek,
Mhm.
Mhm.
Lost in Space. It looked dirty. It looked like what a freighter you picture, not a cruise ship, but a working ship would look like. And I like this. This is not pretty. Space is not pretty on this ship. This ship is broken down and done. And I think the special effects and the set dressing is amazing in this. But yeah, I like this storyline. I'm confused, even though I've seen some of it. I don't remember. I don't understand what's going on. I don't, I did, I honestly did not connect that the lady at the very beginning is the missing person. I
Okay.
did not
Mhm.
put those dots together. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this not only as a different time, but hearing you guys explain crap that I'm missing.
Okay.
Fair enough. And during their exploration of the Scopuli, we have several characters that go down to the ship in the shuttle, and they are, I'm sorry, I have to get my right tab up here. Character names. They are Cass Anvar, Dominic Tipper, and, or sorry, Alex Camel, Naomi Nagata, and Amos Burton. So these characters, put a bookmark on them, Jesse, because they, by the end of the episode, they're the only remaining crew members. So the Canterbury is destroyed by a stealth ship, and we get our link to the Earth scenes because the Mars ship, the stealth ship, is Mars technology, and Mars and Earth are having tensions right now. And she is on her way. Christian is on her way to the UN to negotiate with Mars about peace. So we have our connection with all three threads now. So that last one is a pretty subtle one, but it is there. And the the other thing I would point out is that Juliet Mao, who provides the one of the iconic graphics for the series, which is on display behind me, is showing her arching out and floating in space. And we see that shot in this episode when she breaks out of that storage room that she's been confined to. The other thing to note about her, and this will probably become more apparent, this will become more apparent to both of you, is the episode name is called Dulcinea, and that is a reference to Don Quixote, and there'll also be another Don Quixote reference later on. But the importance of this episode name is that it was actually a name given by Don Quixote to a peasant girl, Aldonza Lorenzo, but he renamed her to Dulcinea, and she became like the image of his perfect lady. And that is going to be something to watch going forward. And so I just wanted to point that out. Again, I have to tread a careful line here because I don't want to spoil that for you. But so there's a lot going on here. By the end of the episode, only the shuttle is left. And one thing that I found interesting that I've totally forgot about was at the just before the Canterbury is destroyed, the navigator says to James that there's something I got to tell you, and then boom, they're destroyed. So what that is, I don't remember. So we can discover that together. So that will be
My
pretty
husband
cool.
did.
Yeah,
My
okay.
husband did, and he
Yeah,
told
okay.
me, but I
Oh,
won't say anything.
okay.
I was like, why'd you tell me that?
Well, then I'll ask Jesse, what did you think? Is that a reference to? I thought maybe she was going to say I'm pregnant, but I don't know.
I don't know. I was disappointed that we lost that actress. I like that actress, and so
Hmm.
I always love a good ship, and that was, oh damn. Yeah, I assume, right now that she's somehow involved with some kind of resistance or some kind of conspiracy is what my theory is now. I do think it was a great way to set up that. And is that going to something that obsesses he becomes obsessed with? We're going to have to wait and see. But I would think it would be, or else they would not have done it.
Yep. Yeah.
So, can I talk about the Canterbury?
Yes.
I
Sure.
haven't yet. So, yeah, I think Jim, he's one of those guys that we're like, okay, I get it. I wouldn't want that responsibility. And I think that he does things that are not by the book, and he's afraid that that will get him in trouble. And so he doesn't want that responsibility. I also
Mhm.
like the actor who played the captain, Joe Penge is
Yep.
his name.
Yep.
He's been in a lot of stuff too. And he
Mhm.
also has a distinctive voice, I think. But he's cool. And yeah, I was really sad that the Canterbury was destroyed. That ship had a lot of life on it. And I think they were giving us that to show that life was taken out in just like a second, a millisecond. All those lives were silenced in that minute. And we also have the now we have a tortured hero here. It's his fault
Yep.
that they were destroyed. There's no doubting it's his fault that they were destroyed.
Yep.
And the woman he loved, I mean, he definitely loved her. We see that in the fact that he wants to be with her, and that's part of why he turned down the job. And she's, yeah, whatever.
But I'm rotating out.
We're hitting it, but I'm okay with leaving. And yes, I agree with you. That scene was hot. And I love that the gravity got turned on and they
Yep.
fell.
Yep.
That was pretty cool too. I love a good sex scene with a funny part in it. I find
Yeah.
that really great. And like I said, I was really sad to see that go. And I'm also sad that he is going to have to live with this. Now, one of his fellow crewmates knows that it's his fault. So there's going to be some tension there. And then the other two don't, but I feel like they both have things that they're happy they're alive for. The
Mhm.
navigator, he has that picture of his family.
Yep.
And I'm assuming he's doing this job in order to send money back to his family. That's my impression, at
Hmm.
least. I thought they were all really great characters, and I'm glad to see that at least they survived, although there are other people on the ship that I thought would be good. And the fact that Jonathan Banks plays a crazy captain who's I'm assuming he's gone nuts because he's been isolated out in space for so long. And I loved his acting in this. And then we're never going to see him again because he
Yep.
is dead.
Yep.
He's a big name. And I thought that was cool. That kind of sets up the fact that someone is not safe because they're a main character. So we'll see that. He's not a main character in this. I get that, but he is a
Hmm.
big name.
Yep.
I like that as well, that we have that kind of who's going to live and who's going to die kind of thing that
Yep.
they're setting up. And again, that's us learning how to watch these kind of shows,
Yeah,
right?
I think it's very much in the Game of Thrones
Yeah.
template
Yeah.
when it comes to characters. So
That's what I
if you
got too.
get too enamored with a character, be
No,
prepared to have your heartstrings cut.
right.
Yes.
Um,
Is Sean Bean going to be in this?
uh, I'm not going to say.
Okay.
Uh, I
I'm
just
just
wanted to pick
saying.
up on a couple of just trivia things that we like to do with these episodes. The one thing I liked with Jonathan Banks' character as the exec, he had this thing where he was on his bare feet walking through the dirt, and he had all these plants. And then we have with Captain McDowell, he had all those cats. So all these characters have these idiosyncrasies that could become obsessions, perhaps. Maybe this is a symptom that, that when you're out in space, you have space sickness, I guess, as a general broad umbrella term for that. So I thought that was a nice little bit of world building as
Mhm.
well. Got to
Kind of
check,
what, like a touchstone
yeah,
to their earthbound
psyche.
life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 I got a chuckle out of the UN ambassador, Christian, her husband, Brian George, who plays who played the father of one of the characters on The Big Bang Theory.
Mm.
Plus, I knew him
Yes.
from cereal
Raj.
commercial. Yeah. Plus,
Mhm.
I knew him from cereal commercials as well.
He also had a pretty
Rice
big role
Krispies.
on Seinfeld.
Yeah. So he's got a
So,
pretty recognizable face. And it was also on series, the air filter guy, Vargas, was played by Julian Richings, who we just saw recently in the Institute as the
mhm.
security, and
Yep.
he doesn't look that much different.
He
No.
does not. He also, as we talked about last, Death, the original Death on Supernatural.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, he's
Yeah.
got a very gaunt
Yes.
visage, so he's perfect for that kind of character. So I think that wraps up everything I want to say with this first episode. There's some interesting themes being put into place here. It's a rich world. It's got its own visual style, a mix of Battlestar Galactica, I think, in terms of the visual effects shots. That that kind of takes us to the end of this episode. It's a table setting episode. As the series progresses, we'll get much more into characters, which is what I think we all enjoy talking about the most, and which is the reason that we come back to shows like this, relationships between characters. And there's characters here that we don't know that yet, but I think that we're all going to come to love some of them. And there's also new ones that still need to be introduced in later seasons that I'm looking forward to revisiting as well. So it's one of those little shock moments again when Karen said that this is 10 years ago that this show premiered. It's like, really? I felt like I just finished
Yep.
watching it last week, kind of thing. We have 6 seasons to go through. Not, they're all of different lengths. The last season, as often is the case, is very short. It's only 6 episodes. So this one will keep us busy for a while, and I we hope that like with our Babylon 5 and podcast that you will enjoy join us, and please send in comments and non-spoilerly comments if you're a veteran viewer, and to join us on this journey again and to revisit this series that I don't think got the visibility that it deserved. And I think that's partly just due to the new era that we live in, streaming, that shows get there's just so much content out there that it's impossible to catch everything. And the show is not that accessible right off the bat. And if you have to do a lot of work with the show, I think the creators of the show probably come into it knowing that their audience is going to be pretty niche to begin with. So it's a testament that the show got through the 6 seasons. And of course, it's based on a series of books that the show doesn't cover the entirety of all the books. So if you really are into the series, then I highly recommend you go read the books as well. But they're much more political heavy than the show is. So there's because of the time constraints in that. But that kind of turned me off the books. I couldn't get through them all because of that. So there you go.
I was going to ask if either one of you had read the book.
I've read the first two or three. I can't remember if
Okay.
I've read the third one, but they're pretty dense and they're door stoppers. They're not 200 page. They're like I don't know 700-800 page book.
Okay.
I have them on my Kindle and they were on my to be read list, and I'm glad I didn't read them because I'm
Yeah.
going in with a different mindset.
Alrighty, I'll just go around the table for final thoughts. Jesse, anything else you want to say that hasn't been mentioned?
So I've enjoyed our kind of foray into a lot of different shows and genres, but I am happy that we are getting back to a series and doing a deep dive into that and going it together. So I want to urge everyone to join us for this. If you know someone who loves The Expanse, share this with them. We are going to try to increase our audience a little bit, have someone along for the ride, and please give us feedback. One of the things that I miss having are my Doctor Who podcast. We have a segment feedback, and we have 3 or 4 people that consistently send us emails. And we got that with Babylon 5, and I would love to have that with The Expanse.
Here, here.
Yeah,
Karen.
same. I thought this was a great world building example of a pilot episode. It might not be the easiest, and I'm putting air quotes around there, that to get into from this, but for us, I think, and I'm trying not to brag on it, but we have watched enough science fiction that we've learned how to watch these types of complicated shows. And I like that about it, that it's not talking down to its audience. It expects you to understand that it's going to be complicated. So I really enjoy that. And I think the cast is stellar. And I am looking forward to all the things that we see. We also, I think we forgot to mention the torture scene, but that rocked me a little bit. That our senator is
Yes, with the belter because of their low bone density, Earth's gravity.
right.
Yeah, so that was, and that
And I
had the
think it's
very
cool.
elongated body, and it was,
Yeah,
yeah,
I was just going to mention that. I think it's really
cruel.
cool that they're doing that too.
Yes.
Something that would happen in real life. Yeah, I just think it was good. We understand our characters to a certain extent enough that, hey, let's see where this goes. Yeah, I really enjoyed it watching it 10 years later. And I'm a different person than 10 years ago, to be fair. And
And we've all been through a lot in the last 10 years, politically,
exactly,
if nothing else.
exactly, Mr.
There,
Canadian.
there's that.
Um, this was filmed in Toronto too, right? It's a
Uh,
Canadian production.
not
From what
sure.
I see, a lot of the actors are Canadian as well. So anyway, I always like those kinds of things, like Lost Girl was a Canadian production and
Mhm.
things like that. Jesse, you mentioned how dirty things are in space, and I did that they contrasted it with how clean things are on Earth.
Yeah.
So we get that Farscape, Firefly interior on the ships, and I really do enjoy that kind of feel of a show
Yeah.
is how they contrast
Yeah.
locations. Yeah, it's so interesting, and I can't wait to see where things go.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if you don't mind, because I've gone a whole hour and not discussed Bruce Springsteen,
Of
um,
course,
when at the beginning, by the way, I'm curious what they're going to do with they're calling it Creo, right? It's a
Creole,
version of
yep.
Creo, yeah, thing. But as the guy was protesting, I thought of the Bruce Springsteen song American Land, that including in the lyrics is they died building the railroads, worked to bones and skin. They died in the fields and factories, names scattered in the wind. They died to get here 100 years ago. They're dying now. The hands that built the country, we're always trying to keep down. And the idea that they are water everywhere, but not a drop to drink
Hmm.
is, I think that's an interesting political situation that is very relevant no matter when you're recording this,
Yeah.
of the
Yep,
haves and the have-nots.
Yeah. I forgot to
yep.
ask you about that, Jesse, when they were, because I watched it with subtitles this time. They were like the Belter speak. Sometimes they said it was like Creole. Did
Yeah.
did that did that have any did that strike any chords with you at all? Because of you're
Yeah,
from
it was,
Louisiana, right?
yeah, it was, and I was curious. I think it's cool when they I'm watching with subtitles too. And I think it's interesting that they don't, yeah, translate. You're just having to understand,
Or infer from their
yeah,
actions.
from
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it's
It
important enough, they do translate it.
Yes.
yeah. It
And
reminds me of I mentioned Firefly a minute ago, how they
yeah,
cursed in
yeah,
Mandarin.
Chinese,
yeah,
Mandarin.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And you,
And they didn't translate that either for you.
yeah, and I'm also very curious that how did this Creo language work? Like with the Firefly, that makes sense, the Mandarin, because even currently, over half the world's population is based in Asia.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm
Very cool.
assuming it's a product of colonization, but it would be nice to
yeah,
know
Yeah.
how it gets.
Yeah.
And I also recommend watching anything with subtitles because
yes.
it's just so much easier to be able to roll it back and see what someone said and
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So
That's a whole subtitles is a whole thing that we could do a separate show on because I've found out really
mhm.
fascinating data about how many people use them nowadays for various reasons.
I
Y-
think I turned you guys on to that.
Yeah,
I
I
said, I
know.
don't watch
This
anything
is the first
without.
time I've watched subtitles. I don't normally watch with
Oh,
subtitles.
I started subtitles with West Wing
Oh, okay.
because I
Okay.
didn't want to miss a thing with Aaron Sorkin's thing. Oh,
Okay,
Mm.
yeah. The final thing I mentioned because Karen, you brought it up, is the scene with the Christian and the Belter. Obviously, they're setting up that scene to show that she can play hardball. I want us to bookmark that scene because by the end of the series, I'm wondering if the creators had to do that scene over again, if they would have done it the same way. So
Mm.
I'll just leave it at that because it's not endearing us to the character right off the bat. We'll have to see how that goes. Anyhow,
He's
that's just
not
something to
that
note down the
innocent.
road.
I'll
Anyhow,
put Brittany in there.
so there we go with our first episode of The Expanse, Dulcinea, season one, episode one. Should have mentioned that off the top, but been a bit rusty. We'll get back into the groove
yeah.
with the next episode. Jesse, if people want to find out more about you, and where do you hang out on the interwebs?
So I am Jesse Jackson, DFW on Twitter, Blue Sky, X, Jesse Jackson on Facebook. I just put out my review of Deliver Me from Nowhere, the Bruce Springsteen movie. I liked it, and I rated it 9 out of 10 missing cassette covers. And shout out to you too. And I really hope people check out the movie. And that's it, I think.
All righty, Karen.
If you want to send feedback, you can get us at jklmediareviews@gmail.com. And I am at Oliveria on the various social media sites, and my blog is alliestuff.com.
Very good. And you can find me on this YouTube channel, JKL Media Reviews, where we're doing now The Expanse. And you can check out our back catalog of basically one-offs of pop culture media, covering books, music, even occasionally comics. And for other back catalog stuff, you can go to Lou's Reviews and you'll find our Babylon 5 series review, including the animated movie. And on Twitter and Blue Sky, you can find me at lou.w.sytsma, Sytsma. And until next week, the fusion drive has been shut down. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
And scene.
The proceeding has been a JKL Media production.